Okay, so we are going to be chatting with Alex Blake again, and he's going to be sharing some of what he's learned about the legal side of farming in Portugal. Because if we're going to be farming in Portugal, we don't want to be caught up on the wrong side of the law. So, just a quick disclaimer, we're not legal experts. You can use, as Alex has said repeatedly, you can use 3 different lawyers, get 3 different responses, but this information that we're going to share is based on Alex's personal experiences, and it just depends on which camera you're with.
Well, thanks for having me again for a start. I sort of wanted to say after the last video you did that I think most of your subscribers have watched your video and they've subscribed to our channel, and we'd really like to say thanks very much. You know, it's given us a great boost. Yeah, like I'd sort of like to agree with you really. I'm not legally trained in any way. This is just things that I've learned through living here really, like we all do. But if the more of us that speak out like this to each other, I think then maybe we'll sort of rifle through a lot of the untruths or the slightly questions.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of myths, and there's probably some like urban legends or something that have been coming along as well.
Can I you mentioned some solicitors. I don't know if you mind me doing this, but I would really like to recommend 2 solicitors that have been working for us. And I can't say enough how grateful we are to these 2 women.
Yeah.
They are, and they have been absolutely amazing. They're called Anna Philippa Goncalves and Lucilia Antunes, and they work for a solicitor's company in Castelo Branco called Erga Omnia. Speak English, they are absolutely lovely. I'd like to recommend somebody that the fact that they're actually genuinely lovely people, and they've got your best interest at heart.
Have they got a website that we can put?
Yeah, well, they're on Facebook, and they've got, if you put in Erga Omnia in Google, they come up on Google.
Okay,
right?
So I'll put the link below
right.
to their
Well, I'm
website.
sure they'd appreciate it.
And recommend them. One of the things that people ask a lot is about the agricultural buildings, and if you can live in the agricultural buildings. And I know each camera has its own way of interpreting the law, and this is what makes it quite complicated. So if we're looking at like the Fundau camera or the Castelo Branco camera, what do they say about people living in agricultural buildings?
Well, I can only speak for Castelo Branco because that's the only people we've touched. And and even if I did mention Castelo Branco, like you've just said, Fundau will have a different take on it. So it's, and I don't quite understand it because the law in Portugal is the law in Portugal. So I don't know how cameras are actually allowed to interpret the law in a different way. The law is the law.
Yeah.
We've quite a few problems actually trying to get, when we did the residency in Castelo Branco, and we're not the first people. We've heard stories on these Facebook groups of people having to take a lawyer with them, and then it's done immediately. Whereas when they went alone, they were told they needed copies of this and copies of that, which wasn't required. And they were given a very difficult and very hard time trying to make their residency here. Whereas if you go to Penamacore, they don't even look up off the table. They just put out 15 quid, take your money, and they sign you over. So it's
I'm actually closer to Penamacore than I am to Fundau, so that maybe that'll be easier for me then.
All the cameras are different, but you're entitled, if you buy an agricultural building, you're allowed to live in it for 9 months of the year. I think it's a little bit, there's a law like that in England, and it's for doing for lambing season and things like that, so you can tend to the animals. I don't know if that means that the building has to be registered before 1951. I don't think it does. I think it's basically, it's any agricultural building. Again, the building's going to have to be registered, isn't it, as an agricultural building, or in the law, it's not even an agricultural building. Yeah, the other thing is if you're living in a house like that and it's not registered as a property and there's a fire, you're going to get ignored. They will save you as the people like they always will. And the bomberos are absolutely amazing people. They really are. If it's just a shed in a field, they'll take, because you could be working on your land, so they'll take you out and get you safe, but they won't put water around your building. You can say it's my home, and it'll just burn. They'll leave it to
Not
burn.
registered as a home.
Exactly. So, I mean, and the other thing regarding fires, as soon as you get your property, there is a website and there is a phone number. I can help you find it later if you like. You're meant to ring the bomberos and give them your GPS coordinates and tell them that you're living there on that land, because then they have a list of GPS coordinates. So when they know that there's a fire coming in the area, obviously in their base station, they'll have a map and say, oh, there's a house there, and they'll send a truck out to check that you're there, or if you are, they'll take you away.
That's good information. That's good to know.
And it can make the difference of saving your property or not.
Yeah.
Minutes.
So now what about like the people that have just bought like a bare piece of land and they've put on a yurt or a caravan or a mobile home? What's the law regarding that?
The other thing is, if I quickly go back, the agricultural buildings, you can live in it for 9 months of the year, but it's not going to be a house. All right. So people think, oh, well, I can live in it for 9 months of the year. It's a house. No, it's not. It won't have a license to habitation. And unless you have that license of habitation, it's not a building. It's just a rustic construction in the middle of nowhere. The yurts and stuff, caravans they only can stay on your land. I think it's 3 months, but I'm going to say 3 and 6 months. Yeah. That caravan then has to be taken away from your land for a year before it can return. In England, we've got a law that if it stays in one part of your farm, you can move it and it starts the process of the 3 months again. Yeah. Here it doesn't. They need planning permission after that. A caravan, it's on wheels and you can tow it, so it's yurts are the same. All these people sort of coming out here and saying, oh, well, I'm not putting a foundation in. It doesn't matter. You need planning permission for it. And I know all about that because I spent several £1,000s with big lawyers trying to set up a park here. People saying that they want to make a camping park. Ooh, I hope you've got 20, 30, 40,000 set aside to get licenses. You will need fire points, fire extinguishers. You need mains water. You can't rely on the fact that you've got a lake on your land to be a source for protecting against fires. It needs to be mains water. So if you've got a yurt and you've cleaned, say, 50 meters around your build, it's probably going to catch light and just combust on its own. And so with a caravan. Yeah.
So is there these cameras, do they have like little men driving around in like a little red car or something that's going to check up on where people are staying, or do they not actually check up and that's why people get away with it?
Yeah, no, they do have a guy that will go around, but they don't enforce it. Unless somebody says, oh, there's a person down there living and make a complaint, they won't go looking for it.
The farm I bought has got like the stone cottage on with a ruin next to it. And some of the other properties just have a ruin on. They don't even have complete cottage. But if it predates 1951, do you have to get an architect and submit plans, or can you just recover the ruin without plans?
It depends what you're doing to it. If it's built before 1951 and you're literally just going to, should we say, restore it, then no, you won't. If you're going to put new windows in, yes, you do. You need for new windows, and you need it if you're going to make the roof in steel. But there is also a size limit, and I think it's 40 meters squared. So if your building's under that or up to that limit, you don't need any planning at all, and you can do the roof yourself and all the rest of it. And if you want to extend your property, make an extension on it, it's done on the size of land that you own.
And when they put this new roof on, they put on a steel roof. So I'm actually going to remove the steel roof and replace it with, like the wood and the tile.
Sandwich?
Yeah, sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the tiles. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'll be nice. Yeah.
So I'm going to make it more authentic, but I don't have to get planning permission to put a skylight in the the roof though.
No, I don't believe you do for a skylight. No, the reason for the windows is you're not allowed to put in a new window that overlooks a neighbour's property or what have you. And before you buy the property, go and ask these questions that you've got to the local camera. Don't go and take the planning guy's verbal answer as gospel. Get it in writing.
Yeah, and so if you're wanting to put up like border fencing, do you have to get the neighbour's permission to put up border fencing, because it will obviously be bordering on the neighbour's property?
No. If the posts are actually in your land, then no, I can't see why. It's in your property. You can do what you like with it. But out here, there are no trespass laws. They don't have them. So if you haven't got anything on your boundary, anybody can walk in, including hunters. You have dogs all around your house, and they'll be all over your land. All you simply need to do is put some posts and even just one strand of wire, and then you've made a legal boundary that divides your property from the public property. Then if they cross over it, they've broken the law, and now they're trespassing. The other thing is you will see everywhere those red and white signs. I don't know if you've seen them looking at properties, a little metal sign with a white circle in it. That means that's a hunting zone.
Okay.
Now, putting your fence up is one thing, but the hunters have got certain permissions for certain pieces of land, and that will include yours. You will need to go to the gun club and you will need to deregister your land for shooting. And then you need to put up certain signs again around your perimeter saying no shooting, basically.
Okay. No, I don't have that sign, luckily.
No, you won't have that sign on your property, but it may well be 2 kilometers away on the side of a road, and it will include your land like it included our farm.
Yeah, what I did notice when I drove out to the farm the one day was that the neighbor actually had a whole flock of sheep that were coming through the farm, and I could see all their little droppings and whatever. So it seems like the neighbor is just using the farm for their sheep as well.
Yeah. But when it comes, I mean, until you get your animals and you get set up, you can have a word with them. So you're more than welcome to continue to graze in the land and keep it down for me. He should respect it when you buy the place.
Yeah, the thing is, if I'm going to have goats or whatever, then, goats are notorious for being escape artists.
Yeah.
So you have to have proper fencing for them. So you can't have it just open like it is now.
No. Well, you can't have it open like it is now because, say, for example, that man's sheep come in and eat your entire vegetable patch. You haven't got a leg to stand on. Unless your property is fenced, his animals will come in and they'll eat everything. You call the police and they'll say, well, you haven't got a fence, so sorry, end of. All right?
And electric fencing, is that quite, to use electric fencing, would that be quite dangerous, creating maybe sparks to start fires?
Yeah. Well, I think you asked whether it might be illegal. No, it's not illegal to use it at all. It just boils down to common sense. We've got two machines here. Each of them put out, I think, 15,000 volts each. And I touched one of them one day by mistake. My Lord, it buckled me up on the floor. No, it did. It buckled me up on the floor. It was immense shock. Yeah, if you've got dry grass where it touches the electric fence, it can start sparking into the dry grass and start a fire. We would suggest that if you're using it in the drier months of the year, because obviously, again, it's only about 3 or 4 months you need to worry about that, is we would trim an area so far so the fence is in the middle and there's no grass touching it. Depends on your animals. Sometimes our sheep, if we had the bottom wire a reasonable height up, they'd actually put their heads under it because they know where the wire is. They become accustomed to it. They'll feed through it and they will naturally trim the other side of it. So no, I would say that it saved us a lot of time. It was much lighter than moving fences around, and I'd recommend using it, but bear in mind that during the dry months you could make yourself a problem.
Because I was just thinking it would be a good idea to fence in the whole property, and then within, to do rotational grazing, use like the temporary.
That's exactly what I'd suggest, because if your goats get out, I mean, we go back to that same thing. If the guy's animals came into your land, my sheep escaped one day and they wandered off down the road and they started eating the tops of some guy's corn in his field. And he came up, he wasn't very pleased with me. Your sheep are in my land. And I was very apologetic to him. And I offered him 40 quid to go and buy a couple of sacks of feed for his animals, which he was very happy with. I didn't have to do that, but I did that because I felt guilty. You know, my animals had escaped and had eaten some of his crops. But most definitely, fencing your perimeter, and then do what you said, divide it up. But always, I would say, just to save you walking in 80 degrees heat to go and get two goats that have run off, you know, and decided the grass is greener the other side, you lose a lot of time. And well, as you found out already, it's very hot out here, and it will make you very tired
definitely.
quickly. And your fondness of those particular two goats will disappear very quickly.
I think so. But another thing is one often hears about, you know, this requirement to plow up all the area, like around the olive trees and the empty fields, and you always see people plowing them and getting rid of what I think is like good pasture. Is this a legal requirement?
No, it's not. Cleaning your land is a legal requirement, but it doesn't actually include ploughing it. If I was a proper 100% farmer and I planted 6 hectares of cereal, come this time of the year, it's a glorified field full of bone-dried grass, isn't it, waiting to be harvested, a giant fire hazard. You don't see them ploughing their entire fields of corn out, otherwise agriculture just wouldn't, it would cease to exist.
That's what I was wondering, like, why are people always ploughing between like the vineyards and the olive groves? And
it cuts down on the grass, which otherwise they spend the rest, well, the following few months cleaning and cutting and cutting and cutting. And for them, it kills two birds with one stone. It saves them a lot of work cutting the grass, and it makes sure that the fire's not going to creep along the ground, because the trouble with olive trees, where they're full of so much oil, and which was the problem here, is once the fire touches the trunk, all the little suckers, it's like someone's poured diesel around it. The speed that it takes hold of a solid, hard wooden tree is incredible. It literally is like somebody soaked it in diesel. It's a light in seconds. And
so if your land is dirty, as you say, like, you know, it's like overgrown, and do you get fined for that?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah. And you need to clean, we're going back again now, you need to clean 50 meters around your property by law.
Okay.
So those people living in caravans and yurts and other, should we say, non-legal structures, that law is obviously not relevant to them because it's not a house. So it's not a house, you don't have to clean 50 meters around it. It'll take 7 to 9 years and everybody will see a fire pretty much. They'll either be very lucky and it won't hurt them personally, but it will be within a stone's throw of them.
And are you allowed to talk about the eucalyptus trees? I mean, are you allowed to actually chop them down, or are they they're not protected?
No. They're a scourge on the land. They're hideous things. We need paper.
They brought them in for like the paper factories, I think.
Yeah, and that's what they brought them in for. And I understand that we need paper, but there's zones you could do that in, away from villages. You know, we've got eucalyptus, and it's in the land that we want to turn into the nature reserve. And we've been trying to get these companies they'll cut them, but removing the roots is what we want. And that's where the money is, because they need big machines to pull the roots out. So they're going to grow back again. And in fact, actually, since last year, they're about 7 feet tall again now, all the little suckers.
So I mean, do they have like equipment hire companies in Portugal, like you get in other places, where you can just hire like a digger and go and dig out these roots yourself?
There probably is. I've never looked. I mean, I bought a tractor with a bucket, you know, for it gives me the work of 2 other guys, you know, where I'm working on my own. It helps me a lot. Yeah, of course there is. I'm sure there is. There's people around that will hire machines for a day, or you work for them. There's a guy in the village with a JCB. I think he's 30-something euros an hour. If you've got rivers on your land for fencing, you're not allowed to fence it. We've got half a kilometre, if not more, of river. And when the GNR came for the pollution, I was asking him, how can I keep my animals from jumping across? And he said, you can't fence it. It's illegal. It's an old law. People are entitled to bring their animals to graze on the riverside land and to drink the water. And fishermen have got the right to come and fish. It's my property. I own it. I even own, you don't own the water. If that's the wall on my river and that's the riverbed, that's what I own. The water going down it belongs to the government, and so does every
Okay.
single piece of water in Portugal. It does. All these people saying, I've got this, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't own it. I don't own it. You will never own it. The government owns it. You have to clean the river, and you also need to go and get a license before you cut trees in the river. It doesn't cost you anything. Basically, you're telling them that that's what you're going to do,
Yeah.
and it's to protect birds nesting and things like that. So it's quite
Yeah.
a sensible
Yeah.
thing to do. But you're not allowed to fence it, and if you do, it's illegal.
Yeah. Now, if you're wanting to put up like agricultural structures or like animal sheds or a garage or the stuff to store your equipment in, do you have to get planning permission for that?
Like any property. Like in England, if I put up a shed, there's a limit. I'm not quite sure what the size is because we haven't needed to ask them yet because we've got so many buildings already on the farm. But
yeah,
if you're putting up a small wooden structure and it's small, then probably not. Again, difference between Castelo Branco and Fundão or Penamacord, they're going to have different allowances on it. Castelo Branco is not so much of an agricultural city. Obviously, it is to some degree because Portugal is just virtually purely agriculture.
Yeah.
Fundão is the heart of the agriculture, and when I need agricultural things, I go to Fundão to buy them. So they may well have a far laxer opinion on people putting up property of storage buildings. Yeah, you're going to need something of some description. Yeah.
Yeah, because
it might simply be just telling them, and they say that's fine. We know. Yeah. Job done.
Like if I'm not going to put like put down a concrete slab to put it on. Mm-hmm. So because I see they sell like you can buy sheds for a couple of €100. Mm-hmm. So like I wouldn't need planning permission for that kind of shed, surely.
No, I think it's the same as, like I said, it's like in England, you're allowed a potting shed in your garden up to X amount of size, and then over that, well, England's a bit different because if it's in a metre of your boundary to a neighbour, then you need planning permission. If it's not, then you don't need planning permission. I would ask, I'm not 100% certain because we've not actually needed to ask that question, but I do know that you will need some sort of permission for putting something up.
So what are the laws about keeping livestock? I mean, are do you have to register your livestock, or can you just?
Yeah, no, you have to register your livestock. I think you can have up to 12 chickens as a family affair without having to register them. Over 12, I think it's 12. It's been a few years since I asked the question, but yeah, it's about 12 chickens, goats, sheep, pigs, donkeys. They all need registering. And if you're going to keep sheep and goats like you are, you'll have to register your land as well. But then when you register your land, again, I don't think it's very expensive, and it's just, it's more so they know. You're not really going there to ask permission. It's to register that that's what you're doing in this area, and that's what's happening.
So you first got to register the land, and then when you get animals, you register each animal.
Yeah. I think a goat's about €15. It'll be done by a vet, and the vet will then obviously make its 2-3 visits a year, check them for diseases and give them any injections. I've heard there's an organic vet that will come round and inject you with slightly better drugs, if there are any better drugs to inject into animals. But
okay, well, that's good. So I mean, the thing is, if you register your animals, then the vet comes to your farm to check. You don't have to try and move the animals to the farm, to the vet. Fine, so do you register your animals with the vets, or is there a special department?
There is. In fact, I can't remember the name of it now, but we had it written down yesterday, TAG or something like that. I think it is TAG. Normally the vet will do all that for you. If you've got a decent vet, they'll do it.
So when you register your farm, is that done at the Camera, or is that done at like a Department of Agriculture, or where do you register the farm as a farm?
I think we registered our farm with CAP, and we receive subsidiaries every year. I think it's going to be through TAG, or if I've got that abbreviation correct. I don't know why I've got that in my head, but I think that's correct, TAG. 100%, I'm not sure. Yeah. We had animals here for 2 years, then Sandra became ill, so we got rid of them all. And we're just sorting some cash flow out now, and we're about to start again. So in a couple of weeks, I should be able to tell you absolutely everything 100% because we're about to go through the procedure of getting a herd of goats, milking goats, so we can sell the milk. So we're going to have to go through all of that. But again, we're going to be wanting to sell milk. Molly's boyfriend's father, he's had goats and whatnot, and they sell it all legally. A guy comes around in the morning in a big stainless steel truck and takes it away. But you're going to need a couple of £1,000 worth of containers, stainless steel chilling containers, and it's not a lot. You don't need to go and build yourself some big fancy structure. His is done in an old farm that he's renting, and he's all above board and everything else. And he's not a super rich guy, so it's not going to cost you the end of the world. I wish I could tell you a bit more on that, but the actual registering is a very good point. We were new here with all the problems with the builders. We were finding our feet. A lot of what I've learned that I'm telling you, I've actually learned since the builder disappeared, and in the time where I'm trying to get myself set up with all the knowledge that I need for when we do push forward with this. We're going to do it correctly and do it once and do it correctly.
No, well, that's the thing, is that's why I'm asking all these questions, because I want to do it properly. I don't want, I don't have much money, so I don't want to put money into something and then I lose it all because it's not according to the law. So
well, maybe you won't lose it all, but you'll lose a big wallop of your money probably, won't you, with a nasty fine?
That's why, and I think like a lot of other people who are wanting to buy like a farm in Portugal and do the same kind of thing that I'm doing and that you've done, I don't think they've got endless amounts of money that they want to lose by doing the wrong thing. So that's why it's really good, to find out.
Money's money.
Someone who's experienced a lot of these.
Money's money. None of us have got. It doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire. You can't afford to lose money, can you? Money's money. It's why waste it? It's just.
Yeah, if you're going to restock your farm with animals again, are there any laws about transporting the animals?
Yeah. And get it in the deal. The part of the delivery, it depends where the guy is. If he's a long way away, you give him a bit of money for fuel, and he'll bring the animals to you correctly and legally.
So so what is the legal way of transporting the animals though? Like if I wanted to drive the animals myself, do I have to have a certain kind of vehicle? Do I have to have another license?
You have to have a vehicle that's registered. I'm not quite actually, because I know two of the guys in the village with special trucks. They're just like my Volkswagen transporter van with a flatbed on the back and a cage. But the vehicle is registered and it will have animal transport written on the side of it. So you do need that. Whether the actual guys themselves have a special license, no, it's probably because the farm is registered. Their animals are registered as milk producing or what have you. And so therefore it would be a part and parcel of how a farm would operate. Or you've got specific guys that just transport animals for a living.
Yeah, because if you're wanting to take your animals to the abattoir, the local meat processing plant, I mean... Same again, because the animal is alive. You don't take an animal dead to a slaughterhouse, it has to go there live. So you have to have it in a proper transport. Okay. So I need to find out what their proper transport requirement is. Like if I would be able to, say for example, if I had like a panel van with like the cage thing in the back, would I be allowed to transport animals in that? That's what
I doubt it, because it's a panel van.
Okay.
And you'll be baking the animal inside it. When you look at all these vans, they're slatted sided. So there's plenty of air flowing through it. It gives enough shade, but there's plenty of air coming through. You often see the guys, they won't stop, or they will do it in the morning or late at night when it's cooler and the sun's not up. And you need to have the wording on the back for animal transportation, and that comes with you getting a license. You're not going to be able to do it yourself. If you get pulled over, you will get some hefty fines.
Yeah.
Here it's very, very difficult to get the exact names of the correct people that you need to speak to. I get told, oh, go and call these guys, and after 10 minutes of being very helpful, they go, oh, that's what you want. No, you don't need us. You need him.
Well, I'd like to thank you for sharing your knowledge and helping understand all the ramifications about some of the legal processes about farming. I mean, it's not just buying a piece of land and sticking animals on it and thinking that's all there is to it. There are a lot of laws, and I think anywhere in the EU, basically, I think there's a lot of
course there is.
laws.
Everything needs a license, everything. You know, a water pump. If you've got your river or you've got a well and your pump is over 5 horsepower, you need a license to take the water from your land. So that's why you'll find a lot of Portuguese, they've got the little motors. If they're under 5 horsepower, they don't need a license.
Okay, well, that's useful to know as well. Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's just a simple registration that just says that Alex has a pump of this size on his land and he takes water from that zone in his farm, and that's it. Because the water out here is very well protected. Okay,
well, thank you so much for chatting with us again.
Well, I just hope I've put some good little bits in there, and I hope everything I've said it will help somebody out and is factually correct. Because, like I said, you can ask 3 people and get 4 different answers.
Yeah, definitely. And as the link to Alex's YouTube channel will be in the description below, as well as his Patreon account as well, so that he can restock the farm with trees after the fire decimated everything.
Well, it's not so much for our part of the farm. It's to plant in the nature reserve. So if people want to sponsor us £1 a week, of course it's going to help us, and we'd be extremely grateful. If somebody wants to pledge €50 like we did last year, they get a tree planted in their name with a plaque. But it's purely to be in this public nature reserve. And obviously anyone that goes into it or watches our channel when it's open and you visit Portugal, you're more than welcome to go and walk around in it and enjoy it. So that's what we hope anyway.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. So in this lovely pandemic time, keep safe, keep well,